All right, this is the video for quiz number 2. So at first it says graph y equals negative 2/5 x plus 5. So the idea here is we see this is the y-intercept. It's the number that we're adding after it. We're in slope-intercept form. So I'm going to go up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and put my dot here at 5. And then what I'm going to do, because again this is the y-intercept, is I'm going to use the slope. Remember the slope is the number that's in front of the x. So here we got negative 2/5. So that means we're going to rise negative 2 and run 5. Now again, it doesn't matter if you do the rise or the run, whichever one you want can have the negative sign. If there's one negative sign, you just make one of them numbers. But if I rise negative 2, that means I'm going to go down 2 and run 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's where I'm going to put my next dot. And I'm starting from the y-intercept. So down 2 over 5. So rise negative 2, run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And just to prove that you could do it the other way, if you want, you could also do rise of 2, run negative 5, and hopefully they'll be on the same line. So let's go the other way. So 2 up, rise 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, run negative 5. 1, 2 up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, negative 5. So then we can just draw a little line. I'm going to cheat and use the line tool to just make a nice line. But there we go. So that's what my line is. So that's it. That's all we have to do is just graph it. If you want a little bit of extra help, again, if you got the fancy calculator, just remember you can graph. I don't need to graph a logarithm right now. So we can put it in. So we could do a fraction second y equals, that brings up the secret fraction menu, negative 2. And again, I could put my negative sign there if I want. I could put it out front if I want. It doesn't matter. But negative 2/5 x plus 5. All right, let's graph it. And we can see we get the same graph. That looks pretty nice. If I want to get the point specifically to plot, I'll hit second and then table. And then these are the points. Well, 0, 5 looks pretty easy to plot, so I would plot that one. That's the blue dot. So there's 0, 5. Those fractions, maybe they're a little bit scary. That's okay. But we can go down and we can see, oh, all right there, 5, 3. That's a nice normal number. Oops. And that's my next red dot is at 5, 3. So you could do it that way too. The other thing we could do is if we want to use Desmos, again, we can put that in. Y equals negative 2 over 5. So you can see I got the little negative sign outside. 2x plus 5, I get that graph also. And again, so we got that point 0, 5. But we'd have to kind of hold on to the line to try and find another point. So it's not as convenient as the graphing calculator, but it does do the trick. It does give you a little visual to say, okay, that line looks like it's going in the right direction. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. So that's what we want to do for number 1. All right. Number 2, what is the slope of this line? So again, we want to recognize that this is the y-intercept. And this number in front here is the slope. So that's the number that we're going to pick. It's going to be 5. If you put 5x, 5x is wrong. So x is not part of the slope. It's only the number. So we're rising 5, running 1 in this case. But the number in front of the x is the right answer. X is not the right answer. If this was negative 5, then I would answer negative 5. But if you put an x, x is not right. X is not part of the slope. For number 3, write an equation in slope-intercept form with a y-intercept of 11 and a slope of negative 2. So again, we've got y equals mx plus b is slope-intercept form. And our slope is going to be negative 2. Slope is m, so negative 2 x. And then b is the y-intercept. The y-intercept is 11, so plus 11. And that's it. We are done. Again, for this one, we have to write an equation, so you need an equal sign. If there's no y equals, if it's just negative 2x plus 11, it's not right. That's not what it's asking for. It's asking for an equation. Equation needs an equal sign. For number 4, we got a couple points. So this one's a little bit long, but for the first one, it says find the slope between the points. We know that slope Slope is going to be m, so we can use our equation for m. M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we're just going to use our equation to figure it out. When we label these, remember this is going to be x1, y1, x2, y2. So the x's always come first. So y2 is negative 3, y1 is regular 3, x1, I need to do x2 first. X2 is regular 3, x1 is negative 6. So I got to be very careful with all my negative signs here. But negative 3 minus 3 is negative 6. Negative 3 minus negative 6 is positive 9. And I'm going to reduce that to make it look a little bit nicer to get a slope of negative 2 over 3. That looks pretty good. Second part says find the y-intercept. So we got to find b. So to do this, what we're going to do is write it in y equals mx plus b form. And I'm going to pick one of the 2 points. So I think neither of them looks like they're really that great. So I'm just going to pick the first one. They both look like they've got some tricky numbers. But I'm just going to go with the first one. So it's going to be for y, I'm going to put in 3. M is the slope, so I just found the slope up here, so we can see why this is now part B instead of part A. X is negative 6, and then plus B. I'm going to turn this B into a capital B, just because I picked the 6. I probably should pick the other one, because it doesn't look like a B, but that's a 6. So we can simplify a little bit. Negative 2/3 times negative 6. Well, negative 2 times negative 6 is 12. 12 divided by 3 is 4. And to get b by itself, I have to do minus 4 both sides. So I get negative 1 equals b. So negative 1 is the y-intercept. Part C, write the equation in slope-intercept form. So again, we're doing the equation in slope-intercept form. That slope-intercept form I already have in black up here. Y equals mx plus b. So y equals m is the slope, negative 2/3. X stays as x, and then b is negative 1. So I could do plus negative 1, or I can do minus 1. I'm just going to choose minus 1 because it looks a little bit nicer. Last part here says find the x-intercept. To get the x-intercept, x-intercept is when y equals 0. So what I'm going to do is come to my equation and say 0 equals negative 2/3 x minus 1. I'm going to try and get x by itself. So 1 equals negative 2/3 x. This is a lot like unit 1. I can multiply both sides by 3. 3 equals negative 2x, and then divide both sides by negative 2. So I can get negative 1.5, not x, negative 1.5 equals x. And so that's my x-intercept. So that's it. That's everything. And again, it might be handy to try and figure this out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my calculator to figure it out. So I got my 2 points here. So what I'm going to do is in the graphing calculator, I'm going to go to the stat menu. I'm going to press enter to do edit, and I'm going to put in my 2 points. These are not my 2 points. My 2 points are negative 6, comma 3. So negative 6. And then the other y coordinate is 3. And then the other point is 3, comma, negative 3. All right, so I got my 2 points in the stat menu, and this is really easy now. I'm going to go stat, over, and then number 4 here says linear regression, so I'm going to pick number 4. Press enter a bunch of times, and I get my answer. Negative 0.6666667, and then b is minus 1. Well, wait a second. This is exactly what we got, because negative 0.6666667 is negative 2 over 3. Negative 1, well, that's negative 1. So I got it. This actually just gives me the answer. So it's pretty handy. So I'm going to steal that real quick. Hit that button. So since I've got it, that's basically everything I need, right? I mean, I got the slope, so it's right there staring me in the face. I got the y-intercept staring me right there in the face, and then I just have to put it together. But it tells me how to put it together. It says put in this number for A. That's what we did here. Put in this number for B. That's what we did right there. So if I want to double check then the x-intercept, what I'm going to do is come over to the graph, and I'm going to make the graph. So with the graph, we said it was negative 2/3 x and minus 1. If I graph it, we can see right there that looks like negative 1.5. So to double check, I'm going to type in negative 1.5. And that's it. I got negative 1.5 comma 0 because that's my x-intercept. That's my y-intercept. Everything looks really good there. If I want to do it in Desmos, it's a little bit more complicated, but we can. We got to set up the table. For the table, we got 6, negative 3. Nope, 6, 3, and then 3, negative 3. That's not right. Let me grab my numbers again. Negative 6, 3. 3, negative 3. All right, that looks pretty good. And then we have to put in the code. y1 tilde mx1 plus b. There's my line. We can see I get the same thing. So I get negative 0.667. I get b equals negative 1. And I can just click right there and see, all right, negative 1.5 it is. So again, I got my two options. Well, I got three options because I did it by hand first. But that's my third option. Send that to the notebook. To get my actual values. So there we go. That's number 4, and a little bit long, but if you got the calculator and you know how to use the calculator, it's super quick in the TI calculator. Desmos is okay, but I mean, at that point, you can always just do it by hand. All right, sounds good. Number 5 is a conceptual question, so we just have to kind of think about it. Kenzie's selling cookies at a bake sale. She baked 96 cookies. After 2 hours, she has 66 cookies left. After 4 hours, she has 36 cookies left. Graph shows the amount of cookies she has y after x hours. So we want to think about our graph. For our graph, we have hours, and this one's going to be cookies. So that makes sense. What's the slope of the graph and what does it represent? So let's see what these points look like here. So she baked 96 cookies. That means that's how many she starts with. So we're going to come up here and say that that's 96. After 2 hours, she has 66 cookies left. So we know we're down here at 66 and 2 hours. Put another dot here. And we're just making an estimate, so we're just kind of guessing at these things. 4 hours is 36 cookies. So 36 cookies would be down here. 4 hours would be out here. And then it asks, what's the slope of the graph? So if I look at the slope of the graph, that looks like a pretty negative slope. So it looks like the amount of cookies she has is going down, and that makes sense in the context, right? Because she's selling her cookies, so she doesn't have them anymore. So there's only one negative slope, so I'm picking B right away. Rate of change of her cookies per hour, and that makes sense, because if we want to connect a slope is definitely going to be a rate of change. So not going to be the amount of cookies she sells, not the initial amount. For a slope, that'd be the y-intercept over here. Slope is 15. It's the number of cookies she sells per hour. That might be a rate of change, but again, we got a negative slope instead of a positive slope. So we just have to think about this one and think about what the graph would look like. All right, for 6, write the equation in point slope form for a line that passes through the point 4, negative 4, and has a slope of 5. So now we're kind of in the other section. So this is going to be the x1 and the y1, and then the slope is the m. So what we're going to do is y minus y1 equals m x minus x1. So we got y minus negative 4 equals, so this is the slope. I'm going to put it in red because it's the same slope as in the last section. So 5x minus 4. And that's actually it. You can stop right there. You don't need to do anything else. We don't need to move anything over. We don't need to get y by itself. The only thing you could do if you want to make it a little bit fancier is make the two negatives into a plus. Put the 5 back in red. And then x minus 4. And there we go. So either one would be a correct answer. Both of them are fun, are nice. So that's it. For number 7, we got another graph. So we got y minus 1 equals 3/4 x plus 6. So for this one, what I'm going to do is get the point. So I want to get x1, y1. So I know that that's going to be these two. And I know for this one, I have to switch the signs. So the one that goes with the x is the 6. So this is going to be -6. The one that goes with the 1, the y is the 1. So I'm going to do +1, because remember we switched those signs. And I'm going to plot that point, -6, comma 1. Other thing I got is the slope. So that's the slope. And again, the slope is the rise over the run. So here I can either go 3 and 4 or -3, -4. And again, both would be okay. Depends on where your first dot is. For this one, I can just go 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, rise. 1, 2, 3, 4, run. 1, 2, 3, rise. 1, 2, 3, 4, run. 1, 2, 3, rise. 1, 2, 3, 4, run. For this one, we got to go backwards. 1, 2, 3, 4, run. 1, 2, 3, rise. I should have gone this way. 1, 2, 3, rise. 1, 2, 3, 4, run. And again, I'm at cheat with the line tool because I got the line tool at my disposal. That'd be like just if you used a ruler or a little straight edge. And there we go. So if I want to check it, before I type it in, there is one thing that I do want to do. Y minus 1 equals 3/4 x plus 6. So the only thing I want to do before I type it in is get the y by itself. So +1 both sides. So 3/4 x plus 6 plus 1. And then if I check it out, hopefully I'll get the same graph. So let's double check. All right, so now we're going to change this to 3/4 parentheses x plus 6 plus 1. All right, and if I graph it, that looks pretty good. That looks like it's about where it should be. If I want to double check some points, again, I could go, well, first I'll just trace. Oops. First I'll just trace and hit -6. And that's at the same point, -6, comma 1. So that looks like it's pretty good. And yeah, I can look at my table too and say, all right, what else did I plot? Yeah, it looks like I plotted -6, 1. Down there, I plotted -2, 4. So we can see my points kind of, they just match up. So those are all pretty good. There's -2, 4 right there. Again, I could do the same thing in Desmos if I want to do it in Desmos. So we'll get rid of these for right now. And y equals 3/4 parentheses x plus 6 and parentheses plus 1. And we get the same graph. So again, it's a little bit harder to get the points on the Desmos graph because you don't have that table right at your fingertips. You can do it, but I'm just using it to look to see if I got the right answer, and that looks pretty good. Like that looks like the right graph. So there we go. That's it with number 7. For 8, write 3 solutions to this equation. So you get a little bit of freedom. So there's an infinite number of correct answers for this one. But I think I'm just going to pick 3 x values because it just says I have to get 3 solutions. So I'm just going to pick -1, 0, and 1 and figure out what the y has to be. It seems like that's pretty easy. So for the first solution, we're going to do y plus 3 equals 2, -1 minus 1. And then I just have to solve to figure out what y is. So y plus 3 equals 2 parentheses -2. Y plus 3 equals -4. I can minus 3 both sides. Y equals -7. All right, just try another one. So I'll just throw 0 in there. Y plus 3 equals 2, 0 minus 1. Y plus 3 equals 2 times -1. Y plus 3 is -2 minus 3 both sides. Y equals -5. And you might start seeing the pattern emerge. And if you do, that's good, because then you don't have to do any math for the last one. You can just write down the final number that you would have in this table. That should be a -7. But y plus 3 equals 2, 1 minus 1. Y plus 3 equals 2 times 0. Y plus 3 equals 0. That's okay. Y minus 3. So minus 3 both sides using our good skills from Unit 1. And we get our 3 answers. So if I want to write them out, I could write them out as coordinate points, -1, -7, 0, -5, 1, -3. So, all right, that's pretty good. So we think, all right, that's pretty solid. But was there a different way to do it? So yeah, there kind of is. If you want, we could do -3 both sides. It's not right there. And then we can actually put it in. So let's just put it in our graph. I totally forgot what it was. 2 parentheses x minus 1 minus 3. All right. So 2 parentheses x minus 1 minus 3. Now I could graph it. The graph kind of helps. I could use trace if I want. So there's 0, -5. I could do -1 and find out what the answer should be. -7. I could do, not negative anymore. I could do +1, get -3, so I can get the same answers. Or I can just go to the table and I could pick any of those points. All those are right answers. So -6, -17's right. -3, -11's right. 2, -1's right. Any of those are right. So those are all good options. So that's pretty easy. If we want to use Desmos, we can use Desmos as well. Where did my Desmos go? So we don't have this anymore. We've got y equals 2 parentheses x minus 1 minus 3. And again, we have some points we can click. So, I mean, we could pick 0, -5. We could even pick 2.50. I can pick both of those. They're both on the line, so they're both solutions. And then I can just kind of click and slide and find another point. I would avoid any of the ones that have a few decimal points just because it looks like it's going to round. So I don't know if we want to round perfectly. But like this 1.5, that seems solid. 1.5 comma 2. If I want 1, since we found 1 earlier in the problem, there's 1, -3. So I just have to slide and find it. Again, there is a way to do a table with the settings over here, but that's what we got. So that's our answer for number 8. All right. Number 9, the point 1, -1, 2 is on the graphed line. Write an equation in point slope form using the point -1, 2. So they want this one to be x1, comma y1. So if we do y minus y1 equals mx minus x1, we get y minus 2. Remember, we got to switch the signs for these ones. Well, we don't. It's just in the formula. But +2 becomes -2. X plus 1, because I'm going to clean it up. I'm going to switch -1 minus a negative is positive. And I need the slope. But if I look here, we're told that -1, 2 is on the line. So I just need to find another point that's on the line. This looks like it's on the line. So I can just count. 1, 2, 3, 4 is the rise. 1 is the slope. So 4 over 1. So you know what? I'm going to go ahead and switch this back to minus -1 because I'm going to need another line to reduce anyway. And then final answer is going to be y minus 2 equals 4x plus 1. So we'll do all the simplifying. 4 divided by 1 is 4. And then the minus -1 is going to turn into a plus. So there we go. We're all set. All right, and then last one, write an equation in point slope form that contains the points in the table. So this is actually pretty easy because if we think about it, remember the slope is going to be our rise over run. So we can do m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So y2, we'll call this one x1, y1, x2, y2. So 7 minus 10 over 1 minus 0 is -3 over 1 is -3. And you might think, well, that's pretty silly. I can just see right there we're going down by 3. And you would be right. That is also correct. That is the slope. Since this is going down by 1, this is going down by the slope. Every time you go down by 1, you have to go down by the slope. That's the definition for slope. So, I mean, we could have got the slope right from there. So we have the slope. We have a bunch of points we can pick. So y minus y1 equals m x minus x1. So the only number that I need to definitely have is the -3. But I actually have my choice. I can kind of pick whatever I want from the table. So if I want, I can pick this point. I can pick 2, 4. So I'll put 4 in for y, 2 in for x, if I want. To be consistent, since I called this one x1 and y1, I'm going to put 10 in for y1 and 0 in for x1. And again, we're not reducing this at all because we want it to be in point slope form. So I'm just going to use the x1 and y1 that I already labeled. And then we're already set. That's it. That's everything we got. So that's the entire review guide. A little bit longer just because I showed a couple ways to do some of the questions with the graphing calculator and with Desmos. But it's a pretty short quiz overall. So there we go.